I'm Holly Waters-Marsh from Urban Fox Marketing, and I'm speaking to Swapan, the CEO of Deeply, to answer any questions that you have. Today, we're looking at the technology used to carry out the processes you need in place to comply for the natural product supply chain. We've decided to combine this episode on the importance of technology with the latest EUDR update, following the news on Tuesday, the 21st of October, that the proposed postponement, of the EUDR of 1 year will not be going ahead. So today we're going to be talking about how traceability systems work in place and why technology is vital to traceability within the natural product supply chain, and also about understanding the specific risks involved of not being compliant with the EUDR. So, although the suggested postponement has been dropped, the EU has, however, proposed relief for micro and small businesses, which will now be given a further year to comply. Reporting obligations and responsibilities would be with the operator placing the product on the EU market, but otherwise the deadline remains unchanged, which is at the end of this year. So Swapan, could you please give us a brief summary of the latest update and what you envisage the next steps will be?
Good morning, everyone. Obviously, yeah, UDR is the hot topic, and it will remain the hot topic, I believe, for the next weeks. It's just 8 weeks to go for someone to recall, if not ready yet, to meet the obligations under UDR. And now, after the new suggestions of adjustments which have been proposed, and they are very, very detailed. So for those who didn't have a read into that, it's more than 20 pages of the amendments to the UDR regulatory. So it's bringing, in some aspects, new approach. We're getting downstream operators definition. We're getting micro and small primary operators definition with the changed obligations. We're getting also a relief for the medium and large companies for 6 months on the audit and eventual penalties. And at the same time, the good or bad news to the medium and large companies is you start from December 30th to 2025. So if you were already preparing, that's great. And most of you did, I believe. But still, I also know and I can observe that there are many companies which were waiting until the last moment. So now is the time, and we can observe it from the first day after the announcement that the companies began to move on rapidly. To make a simple summary of the proposed, changes, yeah, and still the most important is a proposal. Still needs to be agreed by the council. Still needs to be voted in the parliament. For those who are not up to date, there was a vote regarding the omnibus regulatory changes last evening, which was rejected. So I think it was a big surprise to everyone. So I'm just mentioning that if there are people who think that this proposal will be the final one, I believe are not in the right path. They should consider that what's written in the regulatory today, that's for sure to come. And then whatever changes will be agreed, that will be the, changes. So the relief to the downstream operators is related to the obligation of the submission of their DDS statements in the traces, system. Yeah. So what was applicable just for the micro and small accounts, where they had to receive a DDS, verify it, and resubmit it to their product as a material which they use to produce their product, obviously. So that has been now scrolled up to all the downstream operators. It's basically from the perspective of us as a IT supplier of the technology, it is a technical change just, yeah. Still, you need to gather all the information. Still, you have all the obligations under UDR, keeping documentation for 5 years, having the requirement of segregation of non-compliant delivery if that occurs, to be ready for any audits from the competent authority or the stakeholder in the supply chain. Yeah. So this we need to have in mind, but at least it's good that we're moving and the level of uncertainty is less now. I think everyone was expecting to receive something. So now the proposal is on the table. Let's live with it, work with it, and get prepared. So my recommendation, just for those who are still hesitating, not much time to go. Move on.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a really good recap, Swapan. Thank you for that. And then back to the initial questions that we were going to talk about today. So, how do traceability systems work in practice?
I mean, traceability systems in practice are just related to the processes in general, or are related to every transaction. And then we're talking about the full traceability of all products in the supply chain. So depends on the perspective. When we're talking about natural products, here the traceability, I mean, topic is always having its own specifics when we're thinking which product we're talking about. Yeah, is different for timber, is different for coffee, different for cacao, etc. So we need to know what product we're talking about, and then we can address it in the appropriate way, which we'll talk later about the methodologies of the traceability. But the common aspect is there is the documentation. Yeah, and here we need to understand how we are gathering this documentation, how we're verifying it, and how we're sure that we're getting everything to move us to a decision that our supply chain will have the appropriate traceability processes in place, and we can say, yeah, we're compliant.
Great. And then, why is technology vital to traceability within the natural product supply chain then?
I mean, without the support of technology, we can just get a general certification, or yeah, what's happening. Yeah, so we can be just certified on ISO, that we have implemented the processes. We can be certified in the case of timber with FSC or PFC. We can be certified by any other certifications in a general as a company. But the question is, so does all the products which we're having in the supply chain are fulfilling all the obligations under the traceability? Because what we're observing on the market, the misappropriations are happening in the supply chains, especially within the traders. Yeah, you're mixing, different products from different suppliers. Yeah, and here is vital that we're keeping the traceability, that we know exactly what product is coming from whom and how we're able to just track it downstream. Yeah.
Mm. And what are the specific risks involved of not being compliant?
I think they're related, first of all, to any regulatories as UDR or UTR, which is in place, or any other which have different level of penalties. But at the same time, I think they're even more related to our brand, to our company, our clients, and more we can observe clients within the B2B business And then at the end, to the B2C when the products are reaching the consumers, where the compliance, transparency in the supply chain is a differentiator. And once we are building our supply chain, our brand accordingly, we can just, I mean, gain. And I'm always saying we're not living in isolation. We're living in a competitive world. Every company has a competitor. Every company needs to position itself with products, with services, and with processes. And here we're talking about the processes. Yeah. So what processes we have implemented in our company to build, the best name of our brand, and how we can pass this information to our consumers.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, okay, so looking deeper into the technology then, what kind of data is captured and how is it used to build trust and transparency?
I think here with the data, we're touching the most important, part of it, yeah, because the data are vital, and anybody who is understanding how to evaluate or audit processes says, you need the data, yeah. So the initial, data which we're calling the first mile are the key, especially in natural products, yeah. We need to begin the traceability at the source. And here, different technologies are in use, where we need to make a decision what technology will apply and why we'll make this choice, and what the level of information we will receive. Yeah, we need to understand that the only way how we can confirm that the compliance processes are happening in our supply chain is by providing an audit with a full documentation, where we can prove that we know exactly the source of our product. So the data begin, as I said, at the first mile, at the source, but then we're adding more data and more data. They're related to the country of origin. Every country has their own specific regulations. We need to understand what the regulations are, what other document certificates we need. Then we're looking at the documentation related to the supplier. Yeah. So, as an example, one of the important obligations under UTR and UDR is the confirmation that the supplier is not blacklisted. Yeah, and we know that the anti-corruption reporting is not applicable to that individual or company. So that's very, very important. And I know that large companies are already having those processes in place. But when we're looking, at other already medium-sized companies, that's not always what's happening. So this needs to be added in the level of the full structure and categorization of the documentation we're requiring. Yeah? And the common practice, which is today, is that the companies are receiving tons of documents from their suppliers, unorganized, different languages, not understanding what really they're receiving and how to evaluate them. Yeah. So here is the technology which can support in different terms, but the most importantly to get a right set of classification of the documentation, categorizing them, and have the capability to understand at the first step, are we receiving all the documentation we have required or not? So is there 50 megabytes or 100 megabytes, which today we're receiving, it's all or not? Do we understand it? How we evaluate it? And without really a support of digitalization and that it's almost impossible to deal with it.
Excellent. And can you share an example where digital traceability has improved efficiency?
Oh yes, we see it on the process when the EUTR regulation, which is already in place for, I don't know, 12 or 14 years, is now being transformed to EUDR. Yeah. And now the companies in this process, where in the past they were receiving, let's say a lot of documentation, and they were perceiving it like, okay, that's what we need to have, and not always going in the details. Just saying, okay, I need to gather this documentation. It's there. Hopefully, it's good. Yeah, and let's continue with the business. So now under UDR, it is more strict. We need to get more attention. We need to understand it in details because as an importer, we are having the full liability on any product we're bringing to the EU market. Yeah, and it is very strict. Very importantly, I would like to add to my first comment about EUDR. Any changes which were being proposed are not covering importers. So if anyone is importing to EU, micro, small, medium, large, doesn't matter what size, is fully liable by December 30th, 2025. Yeah. So this transformation between EUDR and EUTR in the timber business or any other commodities under EUDR on the importers is there. They're getting the relief of 6 months, let's say, not to be uh, penalized, which is good that they can, get everything in the right way. But still, they need to just register all the imports and all the documentation from the end of this year. So that's very, very important to be, I mean, said. So to come back to the question, we can observe here the different approach which the companies had when they were, importing, for example, exotic timber from Africa in the past years. And now what are their thoughts and what they're thinking about what they need to do when the EUDR is in force.
Yeah, yeah, really important. That deadline is still very much the goalpost for people. Um, and when we talk about technology, I mean, AI is another hot topic at the moment for everybody, of course. So there's a question here about, can AI help with gathering the appropriate documents?
Obviously, AI is helping at the level it is possible. Yeah. So here, when we're talking about any platform with the document flow, we need to understand number one that AI cannot give us any relief on a legality check. Yeah. So legality check is human. It can give us automation of some processes. It can give us improvement in efficiency, which is great. But still, human factor is key. So we are adding in our platform more and more AI, I mean, tools as the technology is developing, and we see the areas where we can apply it, and that will be growing. I mean, for sure, as the AI is as well evolving, and but we still need to have in mind that for all the purposes of any audits, it's just automation of the documentation gathering and some verifications to some extent, but the job needs to be done by a human.
Yeah, really good advice. Yeah. And how do these technologies that you've discussed today, Swap, and how do they add business value for producers and for brands as well?
I really believe and see the use cases where we're having it gives a lot of efficiency in the processes. So human just workload, yeah. That's number one. Number two, obviously, is linked with eventual human errors, which are also eliminated here because the technology is supporting number of processes. Yeah. So as much as we can do, we're supporting the human, I mean work, and it will be evolving, and what we're really looking for, because every commodity, every supply chain has specifics. Yeah. So always we're requesting from our clients, give us your feedback, give us your takes, your proposals, your expectations, how in the future we can improve our technology, we can add new features, we can support you in further automations and further growth of efficiency. The key is here to understand in the processes that we're talking about multiple organizations linked in a supply chain. And most of them are not only linked in one supply chain, but in multiple supply chains. So here also you need to understand that without automation, without really handling the individual workflows, we're unable to get efficient. Yeah. So just look at the technologies which are on the market and how the technologies understand the need of the workload, of the daily workload, to put it this way. Yeah. One of the key elements which we understood many years ago once we started our platform is the need of decentralization, that everyone in the supply chain wants to keep his data privacy, data security, and share only the data what is needed to be shared. And that principle is giving us the right approach and the right understanding in the supply chains, that we're taking care of the stakeholders, but also at the same time enabling to automate as much as we can. And very, very importantly, it's related to the audit processes. We can we can implement the workflows, but how we are making sure that the processes which we put in place are working well. And the
Yeah.
only way how to do it is provide an audit. Yeah. So here on the audit element, we can discuss that long, but it's very important to be said that automation is vital. And as we can automate the information gathering in the way we're expecting it and we need it, then we will just rise the efficiency of our processes.
Mhm. Great. And then we've spoken about importers previously. We had an episode specifically on importers, and obviously we've touched on it today. But just as a bit of a reminder, what documents do they need to collect and verify at the transaction level?
It's Well, okay, we're getting back to it, and I think it's a very good question, because importers need to understand the source of the commodity, and relate the information and documentation gathering on a country level specifics. So, as we know, we have 180 eight, I think, countries worldwide. So, depending from where we're sourcing our products, we need to prepare our understanding of the due diligence processes. So, the right structure and categories of documents by country related to the product, related to the suppliers. So, once we are understanding this, we need to deploy this process, and that's not the easy part. Yeah? And once we already have deployed it and we made that effort, and then we're working, on our purchases, our imports, then we need to understand how much work needs to be done by a human, how much work can be automated in the system, because we are again getting back to the example of UDR, where holding the liability of bringing the products to the market. So we're the first one who will be charged if something is inappropriate or non-compliant. So that's why it's very, very important, and very detailed work needs to be done here for the importers to, as I learned from one of my clients, and I liked it a lot, so I'm trying to use that. It's not invented by me. So what really are you doing? I'm saying, okay, we're guaranteeing you a safe sleep. Yeah. So that's the reason why you need the technology, why you need the support of the systems, which will help you to get as much as possible highest the confidence that your supply chain is working in full compliance.
And how important is it to get buy-in from the supply chain? I know we've talked about this quite a lot over the episode, so it's a really important question. But more specifically to the EUDR situation, the latest update is if I'm classed as a micro or small business, how does that impact me within the supply chain?
Yeah, it's I would say excellent the question which is being asked. I mean, or yeah, or people are just thinking, okay, now the adjustments are focusing on the medium and large companies, but the micro and small, yeah, is postponed. We still have time. No, no worries, no problem. We don't need to do, I mean, much. Yeah? Um, Personally, I think that there is a big question mark, because if you're a part of a supply chain and you have those large companies there and they have their obligations, how they can fulfill their obligations, yeah, without involving you? I mean, it's impossible in a real life. When I'm looking at it, the regulatory or yeah, the obligations which are there are just giving us the guidelines, yeah, and the deadlines by when we have to. It's like with the EUDR, not understanding that this regulation is in force since June 2023. Yeah, it's not coming, it's there. Yeah, so the answer is basically very similar. And my recommendation is always ask your buyers what they require from you, and you will learn it, and then just go and do it. Yeah, because you need to understand that with the really complexity of the supply chains, you're not the only one, and you need to take care of your business. You want to grow your business, you want, as we discussed, to place your brand accordingly, and so just look up after yourself. And the best way how to do it, ask the ones who are paying your checks. Yeah?
Again, very good advice. And so what are the expectations from the owners or CEOs of the importers?
I mean, I mentioned that I think the peaceful sleep or safe sleep, I think that is what they're looking for. And they're asking their organization to work accordingly. And yeah, so just look what technologies are available on the market, why to choose that or other technology, what are the USPs of the technologies, and how we can use them in just getting our objective. So the safe sleep. Yeah.
Safe sleep, great. Well, thank you. That's the end of our session. And thank you again, everybody, for your questions. So we've talked today about how vital technology is to traceability in the natural product supply chain and the risks of not complying. And that can also be used to the benefit of the company outside of compliance to add value. Swapan has also touched on how traceability system works in line with the topic of technology. And then also, of course, we've discussed the latest updates from EUDR and what companies need to do to get compliant at that end of year deadline that is still in place. So next time we'll be talking about forestry and the technologies that use physical traceability methods. So submit your questions via the link in the LinkedIn post. Keep your eye out for that. And we'll see you next Thursday at 9:30 when we'll be answering your questions again. Thank you.
Thank you.